Welcome back. We are just 1 week away from President Biden's State of the Union address next Tuesday, with inflation at 40-year highs, questions over Biden's foreign policy decisions, and approval ratings at all-time lows. What will the president prioritize? My next guest delivered the GOP response to the president's first joint address last April. Joining me right now with what we might expect from the president's upcoming State of the Union is South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. He sits on the Senate Finance and Banking Committees. Senator, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks so much for being with us.
Good morning, Maria. Good to be back on your show. Thanks for having me.
Are you expecting to be the reactor, the response to the president's State of the Union next week?
I know, ma'am. I think they only give that job to you one time in your career, and mine was last year. So it'll be interesting to see. This one might be a little easier because it's going to be a target-rich environment. There are so many fires around the country and around the world, and most of them we can focus right back on the Biden administration's failure of leadership. So
what does 2022 look like? Do you think they'll give it another run, try to get portions of the Build Back Better agenda through? Will they be able to?
Maria, I do think that they have not read the tea leaves, that they're not listening to everyday Americans, especially in places like Moncks Corner, South Carolina, or Somerville. What they're saying is simply this: we don't want any more spending. But what the Democrats seem to be hearing is somehow the solution to what ails you is more of the problem. The problem is spending. More spending is not a solution, but the Democrats believe that this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to add more entitlements, to add more spending, and to raise taxes somehow is a solution. That's an alternate universe. It doesn't really exist.
Senator, do you think he'll bring up crime? I mean, crime is spiking across the country. You know this. Murder at 25-year highs in certain cities, wreaking havoc on communities. You sponsored a bill to give police officers more funding, more resources and training, but the Democrats filibustered it. Where are we on this? Did anything change after Nancy Pelosi actually went against what some of her colleagues are saying with regard to defunding the police, or at least she said she did?
Well, Maria, what Speaker Pelosi said was that defund the police is dead, which means that defund the police was alive. It was alive for a couple of years, and the crisis that it created is undeniable across this country. Officers feel less represented, less respected, and frankly, with a 70% increase in shootings of police officers, they are less safe. So we need to do the exact opposite. We should sit at a table and finish police reform, as long as police reform means we're protecting their qualified immunity and we're giving them more money for body cameras, more money for training, more money for resources, and more equipment. Those are necessary components that keep the communities where they patrol safe along with the officer. This is not a binary choice. We have to do both to do either. And I hope the Democrats wake up. But I don't believe President Biden is concerned with the crime. I think he's concerned with the issue of crime. We should think about Americans, not politics, when we think about safety.
Well, of course. And Senator, thank you for that. You're absolutely right. I know that people across the country are grateful to you for backing the blue. Are the Republicans united at this point? We see what's happening on the Democrat side, but there seems to be a divide when it comes to President Trump. I want to know how you're navigating this. Here's President Trump on this program just a few weeks ago. Watch what he said about the leadership in the Senate. Watch.
Yes, ma'am.
Mitch McConnell's a disaster. The Republicans have to get a new leader. Mitch McConnell allowed this to happen. The infrastructure bill, I call it infrastructure, not infrastructure. It's only 9% infrastructure. So that means you take 90%, 91% of the money that we're raising is going to be thrown out the window in order to get 9% infrastructure. There was no way that should have been passed. It should have been 100% for infrastructure.
President Trump called Mitch McConnell a disaster. How are you navigating this?
Well, Maria, you're right. President Trump's position in our party is powerful, and I think he's still the most powerful voice in politics without any question. I enjoy a healthy relationship with the president, and I am thankful for that. The truth is that we should spend our time creating the contrast between 2016 and 2020 when President Trump led us to the most inclusive economy in the history of America. 7 million jobs created, 2/3 going to African Americans, Hispanics, and to women. What we know for sure, Maria, is that the road to socialism runs right through a divided Republican Party. And while we may have some fractures and even some fissures, the truth is putting America first means uniting the Republican Party. Let's have these conversations, debates, and fights after we win back the majorities and prove to the American people that we can lead and lead them to what I consider the promised land or the American dream.
Do you think you'll take the majority in the Senate come November?
You know, the candidate recruitment is very important for our ability to win back the majority in the Senate. We are working really hard at it. I'm seeing some amazing candidates come to the forefront. We need to finish our job, but we also need to make sure that the American people know what we're for. We are the party of parents. We are the party of freedom. We are the party of liberty, and we need to be able to distill that with the specific legislation and policy positions that speak to the American people about their future and not the future of 535 so-called servants, not leaders, for the American people.
Senator, you said that President Trump is still the power in the party. Does that mean you would be willing to join his ticket? Are you going to run in 2024, or would you be open to a vice presidential role in a Trump ticket?
Well, I think everybody wants to be on President Trump's bandwagon, without any question. One of the things I've said to the president is that he gets to decide the future of our party and our country because he is still the loudest voice. What I hope happens is that we rally around the principles that lead to our greatest success. I am not looking for a seat on a ticket at this point. I am, however, looking to be reelected in South Carolina. So my hope is that you win next Friday's football game before thinking about any other one. So that's my primary responsibility.
And before you go, you rallied around the principles this past week, boycotting the nominees' vote for the Federal Reserve. Where does that stand? A lot of pushback on President Biden's nominee for bank overseeing,
yes.
Sarah Bloom Raskin. Will she still get through?
I certainly hope Ms. Raskin does not make it to the Board of Supervisors at the Fed. Maria, you are a guru in the business world, so I won't pretend to tell you what you already know. But here's the truth. Ms. Raskin has been, she has lacked transparency, and I don't understand why. She refuses to answer the questions that are simple. She can't remember a phone call that she made. How can we move forward with someone who has so little transparency and her position about what the Fed should do in picking and choosing winners and losers in our economy? That's bad for America.
In other words, she would like to see the banks say no to lending to fossil fuel companies. Is that what you believe she will have as her priority because of climate change?
Well, what she has said is what we should believe. Not what she said during the hearing, but what she said in op-ed after op-ed, writings after writings about her position that the Fed should be as political as possible, choosing companies that they like and punishing ones they don't like. I believe that we need a fair and consistent Fed that is apolitical. If it's legal to do business in America, the resources to do business should be available for those companies. You cannot pick winners and losers because you don't like their ideology or their direction. Yeah. It's like when when some of the banks decided to make bad decisions on the Georgia voting law. We don't pick losers and winners from those positions. We allow the economy to decide the winners and losers in America.
Yeah, it's a big issue, and you raise a very important point. Senator, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.